Welcome to the Workplace Wellbeing Essential Series. I'm Mari Ryan. I'm the CEO and founder of Advancing Wellness. It's my pleasure to welcome you to this expert interview where we explore topics that impact employee well-being. My guest today is Sarah Reiff-Hekking. Dr. Sarah Reiff-Hekking is a speaker, coach, and a clinical psychologist with over 20 years' experience helping people create and achieve their goals. She has developed a unique system to help her clients get a grip on their time and step up to the next level of their life or business. Sarah received her Ph.D. from SUNY at Stony Brook, New York in 1997 and a coach certification from Mentor Coach. She was on the faculty at the University of Massachusetts Medical School for 6 years. She founded True Focus Coaching in 2005. And as a business-savvy entrepreneur, she grew her successful coaching practice during a down economy. Sarah, I'm so excited to have you here with me today.
Thanks so much, Mari. It's a pleasure.
As I wander in my business and in my life, I come across people all the time talking about how stressed they are. Their chief complaint seems to be that they just don't have time to fit in all of the things that they need to do. And research has shown that stress in particular seems to worsen or increase the risk of chronic conditions such as diabetes, obesity, heart disease, all kinds of chronic conditions that can diminish our health. As an expert in the areas of time management and productivity, I'm curious about why you think so many people are feeling overwhelmed and overloaded.
I love this question, Mari. I feel like I'm sure you deal with this every day with your clients in the organizations that you're supporting. And this is a question that I talk with my clients about every day. And I think a lot of it has to do with, one, the 24/7 flow of information that we are being constantly bombarded with. Mm-hmm. So, whether it's your smartphone or your tablet, or your computer or your smartwatch, right? There's so many ways that information comes at us. And we often feel like we can't control that, or we're not allowed to control that. And we know that our experience of stress has to do with also our understanding and our belief of our ability to control our surroundings. So I think that is number one, particularly in the workplace when people feel as though they're not allowed to set any kind of limit. Sometimes I talk to people often that will say, I'm not allowed to not answer email at super early in the morning or late at night. I always need to be accessible. So I think that's part of what's really amping up the stress. Mm-hmm. And the fact that we have access to these things anywhere these days, right?
So is technology the main culprit, or is it our inability to set boundaries around these things? Or both?
Yeah. Well, I think it's a combination. I think what has happened is that the people that design technology want to grab our attention, and they're really good at figuring out how to do that. And our environments, when you think about 100 years ago, even 20 years ago, when I first started in the workforce 20, 30 years ago, there was no such thing as me looking at email at home. There was hardly such thing as me looking at email, right? So now what happens is our electronics allow us to do things like we're doing here today, connect remotely and share things remotely, which is an amazing blessing because we can reach people in places and locations that we couldn't otherwise. We get to reduce our commute time, all sorts of things that can be very helpful. But the other side of that is that we don't have those clear boundaries that we used to have when we had a workplace and a home place.
Very true. Right. Very true.
Yeah. And the I can work from home opportunity, I think, has caused us to really blend those boundaries in ways that often and in the beginning felt really freeing. and now can feel very tethering and very draining and very, very stressful. So one of the things that's really important here, and this is a tip for people listening right now, is to get really clear about when are you working and when are you not working? And also, what does your work environment look like to you? Right? Because I'm coming to you from a home office. I run my whole business out of this office. I do travel occasionally. I do go out and meet clients, but I do a lot of work here. And without the boundaries of people knowing beyond that door that I'm not available if there's other people in the building, whether it's a team member or a family member or an animal, right? So let's talk about the reality of working at home. Yeah. Without setting that boundary and having people really know when I'm working and when I'm not working, this could feel very, very stressful.
I think it's really the matter of recognizing, what's healthy for you and when it becomes unhealthy. When I'm waking up at night and checking messages for, my work email, that's unhealthy.
Well, and so I want to play a little bit of a devil's advocate. Yes, it may be unhealthy, but we have to talk about what is your experience? Because I know sometimes it's really freeing. I remember when the first time I had a cell phone, and one of my friends was like, "You have a cell phone, people can call you 24/7. How are you ever going to get away from work?" And I said, "Well, I don't give it to people, first of all, for work purposes. And second of all, it gives me freedom. If I'm running late, I can let somebody know and I'm not really stressed about it." Right? So it really depends on how you're using the technology and what you need to do to take care of your own well-being.
Exactly.
So yes, waking up in the middle of the night and looking at your phone. I actually had a friend who's a very accomplished businesswoman in her own right say to me, "How do you not look at email in the middle of the night?" And I said, "Well, my phone is nowhere near my bed. Or nor is a computer or any device that I can actually access the email." And she went, "Oh," right?
Yeah.
It's a fresh thought.
Yeah.
It's a fresh thought.
Yeah.
So these things that used to be part of how our environment was set up and really created that division now is much more of a blend. And we each need to figure out what is our own work-life blend that supports our own well-being. And we all have individual differences in terms of how that blend is going to be put together.
Exactly. Right. Exactly. In the case of employers, when we think about what employers can do to help employees be more productive and to help them reduce some of the stress, because oftentimes work is the source of stress.
Mm-hmm. So employers, so there's a couple of things here. One, to get really clear with your employees and with yourself, because I think oftentimes managers, people that are good at managing, are often good at planning and sequencing and mapping things out over time. So that's why you become a manager oftentimes, sometimes not. But it's really important to know that even though we're all human and our brains are similar, we're all born with different strengths and weaknesses in terms of how we notice time is passing, how we can plan and sequence, and how we can keep things kind of in our own head to be able to use later in the day or the year or the month. Mm-hmm. So the first thing is to understand that other human beings' experience, particularly in your workplace, may not be the same experience that you have. So that you can start to help them set up customized systems to help them manage what they need to get done and when they need to do it. So that's the first piece. Now, customized, yes, there are some clear things that everybody needs to be able to do in terms of there's core skills in terms of time management. And, I teach people about those things all the time. I'm sure that many workplaces have some structure to support people there. The thing that I see that is the biggest issue in terms of that is that employees are not allowed to customize things in a way that really works for how their brain works. So for instance, we all need a to-do list or a project management system, some way to capture all the things that are coming across our desks and need to get done, and then figure out how to sequence them. But the one that works for me may be very different than the one that works for you, Mari. Mm-hmm. And it may be very different than the one that works for my assistant. Mm-hmm. So you want to make sure that people can set up, again, create the control that's going to support them in getting the work done in a way that works for them. So they know that they can control it in a way that works for them. That's going to help reduce the stress, reduce that fight or flight responding, all of that adrenaline and cortisol that adds to disease down the line when we're exposed to it at a really chronic level.
That's a really good reminder. Yeah. I'm curious how you think about when we might need downtime and how, having and planning downtime fits into the scheme of all of this.
I love the downtime conversation. One of the things I'm reminded of a client a couple of years ago, and when I help people set up their weeks, I give them a few guidelines, right? So when we're doing weekly planning, I want to know when you're working and when you're not working. I want to know when you're doing your must-do work activities, your must-do home activities, and your must-do fun activities. And yet fun is a must-do, okay? And I also want to know when you have 24 hours off in a row in your week, right? So now I know there's a whole lot of people saying, what? 24 hours off in a row? And you get to determine what off or down looks like for you. So some people might need a day with nothing scheduled. Some people might need a day that is just a free flow day. Some people might need to plan in something that is really fun and nurturing for them, whether it's a hobby, whether it's spiritual studies, whether it's a connection in their community, or just downtime with a pet, right? So we all, in order for us to function optimally, and this peak performance conversation that happens a lot these days in the workplace, and I think also just in our own lives, you need to understand that our brains can't do the same sort of work repetitively for long, long periods of time. And we all have different attention spans for different activities. So this is where that customized piece comes in, where I know that I need to have a certain number of breaks in my day, given the kind of activity that I'm doing, right? So make sure you're giving yourself whatever kind of brief breaks you need during the day that fuels you, whether it's, a lunch away from your desk, whether it's, just a walk down the hallway to the water cooler, a walk around the building, or it might be connection time with a colleague, if that's what energizes and fuels you. But think about it and notice when you are taking a break and what kinds of breaks from work breaks, right? I'm putting breaks here because breaks sometimes look like this, right? I'm looking at my phone, I'm taking a break. That might be fueling, but it might not be. It might be more about distraction and energy drain. So you need to take breaks during the day that fuel you, and they can be very brief. Sometimes we need longer ones. That's fine. Just make sure you plan it in a way that helps fuel the rest of your day and your life.
Those are really good reminders. And sometimes when I'm working with a client, based on the kinds of questions we ask, either doing qualitative data gathering or quantitative data gathering, we've actually been able to uncover that sometimes the culture is such, it's the workplace culture can be stressful, and where taking a break, people feel like they don't have permission to take breaks, and so they don't, and they eat lunch alone at their desk, and then they don't take breaks, and it's so limiting to their creativity and to peak performance, really, because they're constantly heads down working.
Absolutely. And our brains need those breaks. That's why you feel exhausted. And sometimes just a shift of activity. I know when I used to work in a more traditional work environment, I would make sure that I had at least a half an hour away from my desk for lunch. And sometimes it was with a colleague. Sometimes it was by myself or, going for a walk. And I knew that if I took that half an hour, then I was going to be able to be focused and engaged for the rest of the afternoon. But if I didn't, it was much harder for me to do a good job. And here's the thing, when it comes to time management, every moment is a non-renewable resource. right? So time is a non-renewable resource. And I often hear, people say, I don't have enough time to do all the things that I need to do. Sometimes it's because we are not energized and actually focused. It's taking us a lot longer to do something than it needs to because we're not providing ourselves a break. And this is that, what I like to call a click of the kaleidoscope where, Mari, you're looking at a kaleidoscope, you see one pattern, and then sometimes there's another beautiful pattern, just one click to the right, but you don't see it because you don't know what causes that click.
I'm wondering if you've got a few quick hacks that our audience can use to make their days feel less stressed and, more in control.
Of course. So the first one is what I call a flexible template for your week. And I want to preface this by, this is not a one and done. So what happens when people start to put together a plan, a time map for their week is that, this is what people call time blocking. And I call it a flexible template for a reason, because there needs to be flexibility. It's rare these days that you can time block and stay on time. And I can tell you, most people don't time block well. You're going to try and cram 2 hours of work into a 45-minute block, and it's not going to work. And then you're going to throw it out the window. Okay. So I want to make sure you're setting yourself up for success here. So know that this is not a one and done. But what I want you to start with is, when are you working and when are you not working? And it sounds simple, but when you ask yourself in your day, am I working now or am I not working? It helps you get really clear about your boundaries. And one of the things that I see so often that is an emotional and energetic drag is that we're not really clear about what we're focusing on. And we allow interruptions that either pull us emotionally or psychologically, right? Or just the focus, pull us away from what's most meaningful and important in our work or in our life. So by asking yourself this one question, am I working or am I not working? I want you to get clear. If I'm working, then I'm turning off anything related to home. Yeah, I'm going to park it. Doesn't mean I can't go to it when I choose, but it means I'm parking it for now and I'm making the choice to be focused on what I'm doing right now at the workplace. And you can also use this if you're somebody who doesn't feel like it's the homework challenge. You can use this in terms of, what am I working on now? Right? So that you're really clear. This is my task right now. You might even write it down on a sticky note or a piece of paper if you're somebody that gets pulled easily, or you're working in an environment that pulls you easily. So that oh, that's right. That's the thing I'm going to keep coming back to until it's completed. Or for this time block, I'm going to keep coming back to it until I choose to make a switch.
Too often, we don't have these bouts of hyper focus. We just keep wandering and have distractions. And the next thing you know, half the day's gone. And it's like, I haven't accomplished anything. So it's great advice.
Yes. And I also think along with that, sometimes it's very helpful to keep a running list of what you did get done, because particularly if you work in a fast-paced environment, it's really easy to feel like I didn't get anything done at the end of the day. Right. And one of the things, again, that helps us feel in control is to notice what went well and what we did get done. So that's another very powerful conversation that you can start to have with yourself and with your teams about, what did we get done today? What are we proud of? And what went well, so that you can notice how are we setting ourselves up for success, and what do we want to keep replicating so that we can continue to be successful and focused.
Great suggestions. Really appreciate those. If our audience wants to learn more about you and your work, where can they find you?
They can find me at truefocuscoaching.com. And you'll see there's a lot of free resources there. There's information about me and my programs. And if you want to reach out to me directly, you can always email me at Sarah, that's Sarah with an H, SARAH, at truefocuscoaching.com.
Fabulous. Well, thank you so much for being here today, sharing your wisdom and experience and the great tips that you've shared. Thanks again, Sarah.
Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.